Thank you, Tobias Chanji, for that. Now, thousands of truck drivers and businessmen are stuck in Uganda with maize worth billions of shillings after Kenya banned importation of maize from Uganda and Tanzania due to high aflatoxin levels. Long queues of maize trucks have been witnessed on the Ugandan side as truck drivers wait to see if the government will lift the ban. Willie Lusige is there.
2 days after Kenya banned entry of maize from Uganda and Tanzania because of what the country has stated as safety issues to do with the health, this has led to long trucks now being witnessed on the Ugandan side because everyone who had imported maize and had not entered into Kenya has now been forced to wait on the Ugandan side until the government maybe changes its decision and allows that maize to come to Kenya. The reason why Kenya has banned the entry of maize from Uganda and Tanzania is because it is alleging that that maize is not safe for human consumption and it contains high amounts of mycotoxin. This is a substance that is carcinogenic and it has been termed as one of the causes of many cancer cases in the country. So far, we have seen long trucks being lined up in the Ugandan side because now those people who had bought maize from Uganda and they were transporting it to Kenya have nowhere to go. They cannot return the maize to Uganda, and then also they cannot be able to cross the border and come and sell it here in the Kenyan side.
Tarehe 5 jioni ndio tulipata notice ya kuambia mahindi imefungwa. Hatukuwa tumepewa notice na tulikuwa tumenunua mahindi na tukaanza kupakilia mahindi. Hatukuwa tumepewa notice atusipakilia mahindi. Sisi pesa yenye tunafanya nayo biashara ni maroni tumepewa kwa bank. Na kwa hivyo tunaomba serikali itukubalie tutoe mahindi zetu, ni sababu hakutupatia notice ili tutoe mahindi zetu zenye ziko Uganda, ingine iko Maraba, ingine iko Kampala, popote penye Uganda iko kuna mahindi zetu za wafanyabiashara.
Saa hizi tukiongea kuna magari Uganda zetu wa Kenya, magari zaidi ya 200 ambaye zimepakia mzigo, hatuna pa kuteremusha, hatuna pa kuweka, madereva wanahangaishwa na sisi wenyewe hatulali maana ni pesa za mkopo.
We've spoken with the people in charge of the business here, the East African community and also the COMESA, and this is what they had to say.
On 5th of March 2011, we had a communication from the AFA stating the ban of the import of maize from Kenya and Tanzania. And this really affected the operations of the cross-border traders because, one, a lot of goods were on transit. Much had been processed from the farms that were also coming to the country. And you also realize that issues of health and safety do not require much of earlier communications because of health. So when this communication came, it caught everybody unaware, and it really affected the flow of cereals, especially maize, from Uganda through this border. On issues of health and safety, there is no better way of communicating apart from letting it out as soon as possible, because the safety of the people is more important than anything else. The East African community have been in a position to generate SPS, the standard issues on issues of maize and cereals. So when it is established that certain levels of microorganisms are at levels that are not acceptable, then there is no issue of East African community. We'll just look at it as a safety issue that should be addressed. From the statement from AFA, which brings it as mycotoxins and aflatoxins, I think these are organisms which are caused by either one, not having maize that is mature, harvested, and that very maize might not have been given proper post-harvest management. So basically what we need and what we require from our people is that they ensure that the maize that they intend to bring to Kenya is properly aerated, is properly treated. It is necessary for the government to equip our laboratories and both sides, that is East African community, help us equip laboratory in Uganda, laboratory in Kenya, and those laboratories should be closer to the border so that when tests are done, they're done immediately and does not affect the flow of goods and services that it has happened. Because it only takes roughly 40-45 minutes to clear a test of that nature. So we need those laboratories brought closer We also need to have the personnel, the Bureau of Standards, the AFA, the personnel, this should be available to interact with flow of goods and services of that nature timely, so that we know as it comes in, we know the magnitude of or the volume of maize that has come in that is not good for human consumption. The process of moving maize from Uganda to Kenya begins with the farm. You have to bring it from the farm, you have to take it for post-harvest management, and then from there, the transportation. So there is a lot of maize that is lying that needs to be transported, either in trucks or in farms or in stores.
So most probably, and it's definitely clear that nothing can happen until the Kenyan government and Ugandan government agree on a way forward, if it is to establish a testing center, a lab, where this maize can be tested and even be certified to be good for human consumption. Apart from that, it seems that it will continue as the way it has now been for a number of days. No entry of maize from Uganda and from Tanzania, and that's one also, it might lead to loss of millions of shillings to those business people who had already purchased maize in Uganda, but they are now stuck on the Ugandan side, waiting to see if the government of Kenya will be able to lift that ban and allow the entry of maize into Kenya.
All right, so let's stay with the maize import ban, and farmers from North Rift region have welcomed the move to stop importation of maize from the two countries. The director of Kenya Farmers Association in the North Rift region, Kip Korur Arap Menjo, says it will help to stop unfair competition between local producers and foreign producers. He's speaking to Elvis Koske.
Thank you very much. I'm coming to you from the streets of Eldoret, where I'll be engaging Kip Korur Arap Menjo, who's the director of Kenya Farmers Association. I understand as farmers, we've been encountering challenges, but this year I can say maybe it has been a good year, maybe because of the good pricing of maize, but there's another issue of maize importation. I know the government stopped the importation of maize due to aflatoxin, but according to some traders in the Nyanza region, they felt that it's much expensive to buy maybe maize from farmers, and also the issue of flour, but according to farmers in the region, maybe it was a sigh of relief. Maybe as the director of Kenya Farmers Association in the North region, what's your take?
Yeah, thank you very much. One is that the stoppage of these imports from the neighboring countries was a good move. One is our farmers have been very consistent and taking care of their produce to ensure that aflatoxin does not affect the produce. And you know, if this cheap produce is, accepted to come across the border, which does not comply with the regulations or of health-wise, you find that it comes and floods the market, creating a market glut, which has actually affected our farmers in a big way. That is by reducing the prices of the locally produced maize and denying them the market. And that is the worst part of it. Otherwise, we have no problem with maize coming from across the border. There's always been there. But the worst thing this year is that the quantities increased. If it increased because they were not observing the rules, I think the government must tighten the rules and the loopholes which have been exploited by these unscrupulous traders. I know we have the protocols we have signed with the East African region. They are free to sell this maize across, but does not mean they are allowed to bring in every kind of stuff which is not health-wise good for our people. So the government should always be vigilant and to ensure that whatever comes in complies with the standards, and to allow also the local farmers to sell their maize freely. Know that we support the neighbors more than the local producers. I think that will not be fair, because, you know, I think cost of production in our country has always remained high because of some other factors which we need to address. As a government, as a Kenyan government needs to ensure all the time they strive to bring down cost of production by way of bringing in subsidies through the e-voucher they have launched, but they have not rolled out completely in this region, so that we bring down cost of production. That will make our products also competitive. And if they do that, we can easily compete. We can compete very well adequately with their neighbors. But if they don't do that, and the prices of inputs have gone up the way they are now, because you see, it will not be good. I can imagine, if I compare last year, same period, when the shilling was 100 to the dollar, and now it's 110. That difference, the depreciation has increased the cost of production by a bigger margin, because right now the fertilizer at ex-Mombasa is going for about 2,700. So if you factor in transport, it will bring it to 3,000. And of course, whoever is selling will also have his own margin or a margin. And bringing prices now to about 3,200 per bag. So that is now increasing cost of production, which will impact negatively on food security. Because if you compare last year and this year, I'm seeing last year was a good, we had a bumper harvest because of good fertilizer, or rather good inputs which were used, and there was an increase of 12%. So that can be attributed to what the government did by really dismantling the cartels who are running the show and messing up the supply of fertilizer. So we had a quality fertilizer across the board. And this year, we have a similar scenario. But now with the high prices, most of the farmers may end up reducing the quantities to use in their farms, which will impact negatively on the food production. So unless they would like to be getting more food from across, then that could be a different story.
Thank you very much. That was Kipkorir Arap Menjo, the director of Kenya Farmers Association in the North region. And of course, it says it brings unfair competition between local and foreign producers. Back to you in studio.
So now Kenya